Welcome to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. I'm your host, Simone Morris, and I have a passion for empowering others to take responsibility for their careers. Yes, I've written several books on owning your career and am loving hosting this podcast. This podcast is for you if you're willing to make a shift to the driver's seat in your career. We feature leaders who inspire, empower, and motivate you for consistent career action for results. Please continue to join us every Sunday when a new episode is released. Let's get into this week's show. This week on the podcast, we welcome Anne Carlson, who is a leader in the emerging insects for foods and feed industry. She's the founder and CEO of Jiminy's, the market leader in sustainable dog food using insect protein. Anne led the development of the dossier for crickets as a nutrient source in dog food, which included several peer-reviewed and published studies. In 2021, she was elected to the board of directors of the North American Coalition for Insect Agriculture. Anne was named 2019 Entrepreneur of the Year for her work on Jiminy's. Prior to Jiminy's, Anne was a vice president at Big Heart Pets Brands, where she led strategic projects. She previously founded Secant, which she sold to IRI, and has also worked for Accenture, Diageo, and Seagram's. I am pleased to welcome her to the show. I can't wait to hear her story. A sneak peek. Anne talks a lot about crickets and what they taste like, so you want to listen to this episode. Let's go over and talk to Anne Carlson today on the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. Welcome to this week's episode of the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. I'm a bit giddy, audience. I'm excited for this one. This week, we have with us the fabulous Anne Carlson. I've known Anne for a very long time. We just had a conversation. I think it dates back to 2002 or so. Anyway, she's coming on to the show, and it's going to be a good episode. So please, please, please get a pen. Lots of notes to take to be in the driver's seat for your career. Anne, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm really thrilled to be here.
Oh my goodness. Well, Anne, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're currently doing.
You bet. Well, I'm Anne Carlson. I am the founder and CEO of a company called Jiminy's. And at Jiminy's, we're disrupting the pet industry. We're fighting climate change as we feed our pets. And how do we do that? Well, we replace the traditional protein, so think cow or chicken, with insect and plant proteins. So we're delivering sustainable dog food coupled with better nutrition, no compromises. We make it really easy for people to make a better choice, and pet parents find hope and optimism in the Jiminy's brand.
Oh my goodness, that sounds awesome and very innovative. I like the word you use, disruptor. So where did the idea come from?
Well, actually, it goes back to when I was just leaving my last company. I was with a pet company and we got acquired because they all get acquired. And I was thinking about what I wanted to do next with my career and having this conversation with my daughter about what she might want to do next. And as we got into it, we had somehow got onto the subject of whether she might want to have kids or not. And she told me no. And the reason that she gave is that she was worried about what the world was going to be like by the time the kids grew up. And she was talking about climate change. And I got to tell you, it hit me really hard. And I decided right then and there that no matter what I did going forward, I was going to fight climate change. And, push come to shove, I got approached to lead a pet food company. I pushed back on them hard. I love the idea of sustainability in pet, but they were proposing, sorry about that. They were proposing grass-fed beef. And I told them, no matter what way you look at it, cows are never going to be the answer. So started thinking about different protein sources. I saw the study that came from the UN that said insects could be the answer to world hunger. So I ordered some crickets online You can
I didn't
actually
even know you could order that.
dry roasted crickets.
Uh,
And, uh,
hope you
and
didn't
I
say
tried, well, actually, I fed it to my dogs and the drool started right away. So I knew that they loved it. But then I was like, I got to try this too, because I got to know what I'm working with.
Ah!
First time I closed my eyes, I popped it in my mouth, and it was actually, it tasted like sunflower seeds. I was like, once you get over like the head thing, it's actually, it tastes great. And it's a fantastic protein. So we were off to the races.
I'm stuck that you tried it. So did you try it again after that?
Well, actually, since then, I've had all different types of insects. I've been
Ah!
to an eating insect conference. I was just at Insects to Feed the World up in Quebec City, which was fantastic. They had a chef come in and he cooked all different meals with different types of insect protein.
Wow. I can't even, my brain is off track. Let me come back to the careers. So, Anne, when you were growing up, what did you want to be? Is there a linkage to pets throughout your career and life?
Actually, funny, I thought I was going to be a veterinarian.
Ah, look at
And then I
that.
thought I was going to be a doctor as I got a little bit older. But then actually an accident happened near my house and people were injured and I realized I wasn't really good with blood.
Mm.
So and this is when I had been accepted to college and I was going in as pre-med.
Were you in the driver's seat then?
Well, I knew I needed to make a switch. So I ended up just taking all different kinds of courses and just went with the ones that kind of appealed to me. So I ended up with political science, economics, and mathematics.
Mm, that sounds fun, huh?
Well, you know, it's stuff I liked, especially the political science, game theory and solving those kinds of problems. It always appealed to me.
Oh, nice. So tell us how you navigated the twists and turns to end up where you currently are, because
Oh
we
boy.
met in corporate America.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think I was really lucky because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I kept on trying different things. And I ended up going back to school to get an MBA because, the political science wasn't actually super practical as much as I loved it. So when I finished that, I got recruited into consulting.
Mm,
And consulting actually was fantastic for me because it was all about problem solving, which clearly I love to do. And I got to look at all different aspects of companies going in as a consultant. And so it was the first 10 years of my career, that's what I did. And it was a great foundation for everything else that I've ever done.
mm,
And
wonderful.
and actually, where we met is I got recruited out of consulting because I had a small child, my daughter, and I didn't want to travel as much.
Hmm.
And so I got recruited by Diageo.
Hmm. Hmm.
I didn't love the position, but I loved that there was less travel.
Right, right.
So
Well, we did some fun things too there as I
absolutely, it was a fun company, and I got to meet you, which is
That's
terrific.
right. That's right. And I still have some really good friends from my time at Diageo. It feels like a lifetime ago. And we're both doing such different work. And so what have you learned in terms of these different careers, consulting, time in corporate America, and now running Jiminy's? What have you learned? What are the key ingredients to successfully owning your career?
Well, for me, it's being clear about why you're making the decision you're making. Like
Mm-hmm.
when I made the choice to go to Diageo, it was about my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to be close to home. I wanted to be there while she was growing up. When and then basically since then, it's doing things that I feel really passionate about. And Jiminy's is a great case in point. It's about climate change. I believe in what we're doing. It's the most important thing. It's the existential crisis of our time. And to be able to do something that is making a meaningful impact there. It gets me out of bed every day. It gives me energy. It makes me excited to talk to people and just keep going.
Mm, I love that. Purpose and passion. Very important things. I completely agree with what you're saying. So what, how did you manage to get to the point where you're doing work that's your passion and your purpose? What has to happen for you to embrace and to sort of be okay with leaving behind work because you have to work?
Yeah. Well, it is tricky because it's a little scary
Mhm.
sometimes. Because for me, I was starting something brand new. Um, I felt confident in my own abilities, though, and part of that came from having done all of the other work before, because I felt like I had a lot of skills that I could use. And then actually, I did do a coaching, and this was when I was at my last company. And I worked with a coach to really kind of hone in on what were my skill sets and what was I good at, and what might I want to do in the future. And what came out of that is one of them was a skill finder. And it was kind of funny because I'm strategic, futuristic, I'm an activator, I have positivity and ideation. And
Mhm.
it's kind of like all the things that you would take to start a company.
That's awesome.
So I kind of was like, okay, yeah, I can do this. I think I can do this.
I love that. I can relate to that. But I was in denial. So I did this thing called Johnson O'Connor Research Foundation. And audience, you may have heard me talk about this on the podcast before. It's a aptitude test. It's a natural aptitude test. And once upon a time, I took a sabbatical from work to find myself. And I had a coach as well. And I did this natural aptitude test. And it had on there entrepreneur. And I was like, yeah, no, that's not, I can't see that happening. You get some results and you're like, either you accept it or you're in denial and it takes some more time. So for me, it took some more time to say, oh, maybe this might be good. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, mine, I read them and I was like, yep, that's me.
That's awesome. Did you know them before, and were you applying those skills in the roles that you were doing in the way that you're doing now?
Well, I think I'd always been applying the skills without, but not consciously.
Mm,
Like the strategy and focus on the future. When I was a consultant, well, yeah, that's what you do. You're figuring out where do you need to go. And then, when I look at it, activator, and I'm like, yeah, I've always been bringing people along, like saying, this is where we're going. And here's, trying to bring this whole group of people along, showing them the way and why I think it's important and why they should think it's important. And so there are things that I think came naturally to me, but I wasn't purposeful about it before.
I love that. And to be able to be rewarded and recognized. So tell us about your big news, your big moment. I recently read it on LinkedIn. Tell us a little bit about behind the scenes of the Inc. 5000.
Oh, wow. It was really cool. So we knew early on that we had been named to the Inc. 5000, and that's the 5,000 fastest growing independent companies in the US. So privately held companies in the US. But we didn't know what our ranking was. And so they had this reveal day, like a week before it was going to be announced in the magazine. And so my entire team, we're all on our computers in our home offices, and we're watching to see what is our rank. And we're like, oh, please don't let it be number 5,000. We just wanted to be like in the top half if we could be. And then there started this countdown. They were like 10, 9, 8. And then all of a sudden the numbers started scrambling, and it showed 5,000, then it showed 4,000, 3,000. And then all of a sudden it went 289. And
Wow.
we're all like looking at each other. Is that our number? oh my God, that's our number. So
Wow.
we're number 289, fastest growing privately held company in the US. Pretty
Oh,
cool.
that is pretty cool. So how did that make you feel? Are you in the driver's seat?
Oh God, so proud, so happy, excited about where we can go next. Yeah, it's amazing. And I do feel like I'm in the driver's seat, but with my team as co-pilots, because I really do, I rely on my team. I have a fantastic team, and I try to hire people that do things better and are smarter than me in other ways, so that we complement each other. And I just am so proud of the team that we're building. It's
Mm.
exciting and really gratifying.
And I have to ask about your daughter because, when you talked about purpose before, is your daughter involved in the business?
She has been. Isn't that it's actually really exciting. So she went to school for film,
Ah,
and she has actually done a few different videos for us. She's helped to write the script, she's helped to film them, she's done all of the editing, and that has just been really fun when I do get to work with her, because it's kind of like bringing the whole family together. And also, I see that it's making an impact on her as well. I'm
oh,
more optimistic about the future, seeing what we're doing and seeing that you can make a difference.
that's awesome. I bet she's so proud of you.
She doesn't say it all the time, but I definitely feel it.
That's awesome. I bet that she is. That is awesome. So talk to us about risk because in the work that you do you
Mhm.
have an appreciation for risk and how do you go about evaluating the risks that you take?
Yeah, it's tricky because, when you do something like this, you become responsible not just for yourself, but for everybody that you hire.
Mm,
And so I really do think about, we need to make payroll. We need to, where are we going? Are these the right decisions? And every single decision you make has a little bit of risk in it. And so what we try to do, and I try to do, is always remember what our objective is, and coming back to, if I can make a choice that is going to help us continue to be a sustainable brand and doing the right thing for the dogs, doing the right thing for the pet parent and for the planet, then I feel like, I've made a good decision.
mm,
It,
mm,
it's tricky because every single decision has consequences.
right. And that's good to remember. So what's going on in your mind when you're making the decisions?
Well, trying to use that kind of lens, I do rely on my team to help make recommendations. And actually, I go back to a lot of the things that we did back in the day, and giving them, like, here's how you can make a decision without putting emotion into it.
Mhm,
So, thinking ahead of time, what's the decision criteria, really laying that out, and then evaluating your options against those decision criteria, especially when it's a big decision, because we have to make some decisions that are enormous, like who's going to do our shipping for us, who's going to make our product for us, things like that. And those are hard because there's multiple choices, and picking the right partner is tricky.
mm, mm. Awesome. So if you think about, Anne, if you sort of look back and you think about your career in its entirety, and you had to come up with a title for a book to represent your career, what do you think the title would be?
How dogs, crickets, and climate change got me to where I am today.
Oh my God. You know what, Anne? That sounds like a TED Talk. I don't know if that's in your future or something like that, but that's a catchy title. No one has said anything like that before. I need you to repeat it again.
Let's see if I can do it again. Dogs, crickets, and climate change, and how they got me to where I am today.
I'm going to be looking out for this book or a TED Talk because you dropped the seed here on the podcast, and it may just stick around and show up somewhere.
Well, it would be fun to do. Because that really is, that's how it all started.
That is so, I'm back to the fact that you tasted the cricket.
You know, since then, I've tried so many different kinds of insect proteins, and you'd be amazed. There's one of the ones that I really love. They're these ants that they use as seasoning, and they taste like lemon or lime and salt. They're salty lime, so they like really complement like Mexican food.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy.
Did you ever think that you would be eating ants or and crickets?
You know, if I went back to the beginning, no, absolutely not.
Oh my goodness.
I
Wow.
I always have had a fascination with bugs, and I love taking photographs of insects because they're very cool. As you know, I love ladybugs. I love in fact, we have a what they call a ladybug aggregation at our cabin. We've got this cabin up in the Sierra foothills, and they come out. There's hundreds of thousands of ladybugs that come out at certain times of the year, and it is spectacular.
Wow.
So I
I need to
definitely
see
have a
photos.
fascination.
Oh, I think you would have to. It sounds like you're in the right role and just doing great things. And so it's been so great to have you on the podcast. Any parting words of wisdom just around, moving from the passenger seat? I did not ask you when you were in the passenger seat, how you moved to the driver's seat.
No, it's a gradual process, really. Just as you move through your career, you get more and more responsibility. But for me, the big shift was when I decided to do Jiminy's, and just knowing that I was going to lead that idea and lead that company. And so that was a moment in time. And I got to say, I'm so happy I did it. We're reducing carbon paw prints, and it makes a difference. It really does. We've saved over I think it's over 400 million gallons of water now in this last year,
Wow.
just by making this switch, getting a dog to switch from like a chicken-based diet to an insect-based diet. It really makes a difference.
Okay, I just got a aha. Is it Jiminy because it's Jiminy Cricket, or is that oh, my brain is on the cricket still. I'll be dreaming about a cricket tonight.
Yeah. Well, and funny story, because when we first came up with the name Jiminy Cricket, well, Jiminy's for the company, we were like, oh, there is no way we're going to be able to get this name, because we thought for sure it would be a conflict with Disney.
Right.
And we did a little bit of research, and it turns out that it is an expression that dates back to the 1800s. Back then, people felt like they were swearing if they said Jesus Christ. So they started doing JC, and then Jiminy Christmas, Jiminy Cricket. And that's where the expression comes from.
Really? How interesting. Wow.
We were able to get the trademark.
Oh my goodness. Wow. How clever. You will continue, I am sure, to disrupt the market. I will be watching. You will be moving up that list.
It's exciting. I hope you're right. I think you're right. And yeah, we're redefining the paradigm.
Love that. Happy pets, healthy planet. Happy Anne.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on the podcast. Can you tell our listeners how they can stay connected with you if they'd like to do so?
LinkedIn is a great place, Anne Carlson. And you can also check out Jiminy's. It's JIMINYS.com.
Awesome. Awesome. So is it for all pets or particularly dogs?
Right now, dogs, but cats are coming.
All right. Okay. We'll be watching. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Power of Owning Your Career podcast, Anne.
Thank you, Simone.
I sincerely hope that you enjoyed this week's empowering career story on the podcast. If you did, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Wherever you listen to the podcast, be sure that you are subscribing and that you rate and review the podcast. It's so important as we continue to spread the word of career empowerment. In addition, you can head over to the LinkedIn platform and join the Power of Owning Your Career discussion group. There you can have access to the guests who have been on the podcast, as well as others listening to the podcast, as well as myself, where we can continue the conversation. I hope to see you on that platform. You can also email me at pooyc@simonemorris.com if you have a suggestion for guest or a message that you want me to hear personally. Thanks so much, and make it an inspiring, empowering week in your career.